We've all seen the movie The Matrix. It was interesting and fun on the big screen of the TV, but has it become a bit too real in your own life? Are you seeing glitches in the Matrix and trying to figure out what's happening? Have you been told that you've been tricked and that you need to fight against what they've done to you? The deception. Whether you're just beginning to notice, or if you've been searching for a more peaceful and congruent way to live without battling them, you're in the right place. I'm Ken, and I'll be joined by Eliza and Raina Stella. Let's explore together on the Liberty Ark. Here we are again. I'm Ken, and I'm here with Eliza and Raina Stella again to speak about a book that we are going through, and I'm just going to let Eliza.
Episode 7, Breaking the Chains of Illusion, Understanding the Carrot and Stick Dynamics. The metaphor of the carrot and stick aptly describes how the promise of relief has been used to manipulate and control populations. Throughout history, leaders and institutions have dangled the proverbial carrot of hope in front of the masses, ensuring compliance and subservience. This method has proven highly effective, as it plays on the innate human desire for a better future. By continuously promising a brighter tomorrow, whether through spiritual salvation, economic prosperity, or social justice, those in power maintain their grip on society. The carrot keeps people moving forward, striving and working within the system, while the stick, the fear of suffering, punishment, or eternal damnation, ensures that they do not stray too far from the path laid out for them.
Well, that's kind of depressing.
But let's not start it depressing. Let's just say episode 7 is a very lucky number there. Episode 7. But I will say the breaking the chains of illusion, right? Doesn't that sound dramatic? It sounds dramatic. But it should. I mean, it's not fantasy. I mean, it is about waking up to what's actually happening, in our life and our choices.
Yeah, and illusions can be very convincing too.
Yeah,
that's
how I feel.
Change that don't actually exist, but the illusion is really strong.
Mm-hmm. And I can see where the word depressing. I think it really, I hear the word depressing because it so succinctly described our reality. If we're honest with ourselves and take a step back. So therefore, we're talking about the illusion that is overlaying that reality. So that's fair enough, but it's certainly worth a discussion because it's, we are talking how to go beyond it, but it needs discussion.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of us walk through life feeling like we're free, but are we really? And making our own choices. I don't know. Are those choices already scripted for us? I think we're operating under illusions that are designed to keep us in line, chasing something maybe that we will never reach.
And used to manipulate and control populations, not just individuals, but populations.
Yeah, that's what I got. And maybe we talk about some of the carrots and then some of the sticks.
Before we talk about that, though, let's think about it. Like, isn't that really used? And I'm sorry, it's going to sound really rough. Isn't it like used on animals? The carrot on stick is really used like on animals, like a donkey, right? Like to keep them moving, right? But how relatable is it to us living, right? Living man, living woman. Like, it's so relatable, but it's so sad to do the comparison.
Yeah. And I think ensuring compliance and subservience, that's not about carrots. I think what they are, it's a whole bunch of sticks with saying if you tolerate the sticks, if then there'll be a reward at the end. Those are the carrots. But it's pretty much based on sticks.
Well, what are some of those rewards, though?
Right. When we mentioned here, and I think it's in the next slide, is whether it's a spiritual reward, societal justice, whatever it is, or financial gain. If you tolerate the sticks, then you'll get this stuff. But it's rarely, hey, here's happiness, here's this or that. It's always that if you tolerate the sticks, we'll make sure that you're taken care of and happy.
Or if you get this thing poked in your arm, we'll give you a Big Mac.
Wow,
yeah,
wasn't
or
that
a donut.
Crazy?
Exactly.
Now that man who was advertising that, wow.
Yeah.
What he really thought about is right then and there is like, yum, like here's this hamburger and, ooh, do I really get some fries with this? Oh my goodness. Like, do you really think of us that low? It's crazy. It was a crazy ad.
Yeah, and you can bet a whole bunch of people did it too.
And they fell for it, right? Yeah, I mean, like the so-called money, I'm talking reward, right? The carrot, so-called money and the status. I mean, even like in modern society of like, getting a like on your social media for approval and I don't know. I mean, a degree. I think also I've talked about degrees that they never really attracted me, but that's also a way, that's also the carrot, a job title. And then the fear of possibly failing is really the stick in my idea of how it's a way of controlling us, right? The stick is the fear of failing or being left behind and I guess not being good enough, right? Being judged and punished if we do step out of line. There's that stick to keep us there.
I think one of the biggest carrot stick scenarios that is being used through social media, political alliances, things that are foundational, it's inclusion. Being left out or being alone. So people will tick like boxes. They're looking how many likes they get. They're picking political alliances based upon where the most inclusion is. It's like gangs. Gangs are all about, if you do these horrible things, you'll be included. You'll be part of the family. You'll be what we're being indoctrinated to do is seek inclusion, seek approval and acceptance. Now that's a natural thing and a good thing to want to feel loved, but it's being pushed so on such a big scale. It's like everything. Your family doesn't matter because you can get included over here. This doesn't matter. There's inclusion over here. We're your family. So it's drawing away from almost a lot of the truly spiritual self of being okay with oneself for the sake of inclusion.
Well, yeah, I mean, to your point, Eliza, it's about knowing, that we don't have to play their game, right? To have worth or value or authority, really, right? It's about reclaiming our position, right? And not chasing or fearing, but really standing up. But in order to get there, of course, is the comprehension and the knowing that you do have the value, you do have the authority, and you are worth what you know you're worth, not what someone else is telling you you're worth.
What's been so amazing to me over the last few years is the absolute extremes of the two sides. You're either way over there or you're way over there. And if you're way over there, you're supposed to hate everybody over there. And if you're way over here, you're supposed to hate everybody over there. Not just, there's just no capability to have a discussion logically from either side. Neither side can hear a word the other side says. And I don't think that's accidental. I think that's a huge part of the control mechanism to ensure compliance, which sounds strange, right? If you've got oppositions, that shouldn't be compliance, but having those two ends being so far away from each other assures that they're busy doing their battles, which means they're compliant. The system doesn't want you to evaluate the system. They want to keep you battling with each other to the point that you just do what they say because you got no rational capability to even think, because it's also emotional from both sides.
It almost feels also like they want you to depend on them for everything. So aside of having us arguing and fighting with each other for everything and anything, it's also like they want us to become, they want us asking or requesting for them taking care of us. And a lot of people are accepting that and wanting that.
And I think that's where the carrot thing comes in a lot, right? They're going to offer you something that you think you want, but there's a cost with that free carrot, right? That free carrot ain't free, but it draws a lot of people in, like the mouse to the cheese on the mousetrap, right? Sure looked like it was free and a good thing.
And, to what you were referring to is these polarizations of opinion and values that have been created to keep people very distracted, because what they depend on that to keep people polarized are the sticks of just a thumbs down, of you're not okay. And it keeps people so seeking the approval, which of those are the carrot. It's a carrot stick thing. The approval system is actually a stick. It's a control stick, so you don't get hated on. But it keeps everyone from even asking the question who they are. Okay, who am I? What do I really value? That's, no one's even has space with the system out there to take a step back and see that, and therefore the sticks have no power. See, so many of these sticks, and that's what we talk about in even on the financial side, the legal side, etc. So many of these sticks only have the power that we allow them. And I still have a long way to go, even in my own life, in realizing that. Even when I realize the truth of it, it's still hard to get over into true belief and action.
Yeah, I mean, like it just seems like there's a constant pattern that repeats itself, and we fall for it, right? The power holders keep us chasing that hope that you've always mentioned, Eliza, on our previous episodes, and that in a way they keep us chasing hope so we stay in line. You've always mentioned, Eliza, you've always brought up the like bread and circuses in the past that they used on us, right? To distract us while they're tightening control. We don't realize it. And that's, of course, even happening today with what you mentioned, Ken, of people just going at it, right? For everything and anything. And then we go into like the era of, let's say, the Industrial Revolution, right? Which was our grandparents and parents, where we are working hard, to buy a house and live the dream. But in exchange, we're like, they're burning themselves out by working 14 to 20 hour days, right? To, in a way, clear off the debt they had to get into to accomplish that. And then today, what is it that we're going through today with our young ones, right? Our millennials is the student loans, the debt they got themselves into. And student loans, right? Promising forgiveness, and it doesn't happen. So it's just a constant cycle of promises that they give us. But it just seems like we're always, our energy, right? Our energy's being used and abused, and it just doesn't seem like we're getting to that finish line. It's definitely, interesting to see that it is having to do with, us thinking about future, and that it'll get better and better and better, but yet I think we have to pause and really say, let's start thinking about today. What can we do now? And really, really live and utilize the energy for us and not someone else. I call it burnout. Like we all, at least I'm sure it's globally, but when you focus on the United States, California, where I've lived and grew up, it just seems like it's nonstop out of, your energy is fully being given. And what are you receiving in exchange for later? And we're not really utilizing our minutes, our days, our weeks to live and really live in the moment.
And they keep doing it over and over and over because people keep falling for it over and over and over because they understand human nature. And so it's an interesting experience to be sitting watching it, observing it, and trying not to be in the middle of it, because it is human nature to fall for this trick. And that's why they can just keep doing it over and over and over, because they're dealing with humans that have the same human nature as they did 50 years ago when they were doing this, and 200 years ago when they were doing this. So the trick is, to me, how to help people stand back and begin observing it. And that's what we're trying to accomplish here, is to get folks to not believe what we're saying, but just to sit back and observe and say, am I doing stuff because I want to? Or is there something at play here that's keeping me locked in a cycle, really without the ability to freely make my own decisions and live my life? Because you don't have any chance of changing it if you can't observe the reality of the experience that you're living. And not get angry with them, because they're just doing what they do, right? It's kind of like getting perturbed at a dog for barking. That's what dogs do, right? There's no value in getting upset with them, but recognizing what's been happening to us over and over, you begin to be able to develop an ability to step out of the loop instead of just stay in the swirl over and over and over and over.
It's funny, though, what you say, Ken. They spend probably 24/7 studying us, right? To be able to keep us in that pattern or process or cycle. That's all they must, right?
I'm sure they do, but you know what? Honestly, I don't think they need to, because humans just don't change that much. The same exact things that have worked for hundreds of years are still working. But now they've got all the technology and the AI and stuff. I don't think they even need to pay much attention, right? It's just hit the button and all the bots come out and attacks that group and six them on each other. And everybody just falls for it.
Yeah. It's all AI. It was interesting when I was taking some, just trading charting for anyone who goes there and say looking at when to buy, when to sell, all of this. And it's a large chunk of time to really, if someone does that, I know people do that pretty much 24/7. But all of this is called technical analysis. And what it is all based on, it's psychological analysis. That's all it's based on. It's not based on the price or this or that. It's the reaction to the price. It's the reaction to the news. And it's all charted. Technical analysis is based upon all of those things: human behavior, reaction to the news, reaction to whatever's going on. They've charted us. And I'm sure it's not just used in the trading world. It's used on everything. And therefore the AI, that's why every form letter you receive back, everything where you think it might be a real person, every bot that answers you online, it's all based upon what they believe you need in order to get the response they want.
It's interesting. I can't even relate to a lot of this stuff because I haven't watched the television for so many years. But it's amazing to me that people are still watching that thing. I just remember from a kid, even watching Gilligan's Island and that stuff, we were being freaking programmed with even things way back then. Archie Bunker and the whole bit,
I think even cartoons, I have to say.
Oh, yes, especially
absolutely.
The cartoon.
Yeah. Yeah, get them when they're young and program them.
Yeah.
Even the word program for a television program, I didn't get it when I was growing up, right? My parents actually tried to tell me. They got it.
Good parents, awake parents.
Mm-hmm.
So going back to what you mentioned, Ken, in regards to them knowing, like they don't have to really put a lot of effort to study is or whatever, and because they do know what we're looking for, right? They know each of us, they know that, we want something better. I've always mentioned always being in survival mode. I always wanted something better. I always worked I'll keep it clean. I've always worked very hard, and I use my full energy every day because I do want something better. Not necessarily for me, but for the people around me. But I do know now and comprehend that it starts with me. And because they know that all of us are looking, I'm going to say a big majority of us are looking for something better always. Whether it's more freedom, right, with what we're learning, maybe even more time, because I know that as I was growing up as a mom and my business and learning how to be a wife all at the same time, more time. I wanted more time. They know that. They know that we're always looking for that, and I think that's where they utilize how well they know us to apply, right, that hope or different the carrot to keep us moving in that direction, but just seems like we never accomplish or we never get there. And And I'm learning today with the read that we're going through that it's time for us to really pause and think about ourselves and utilize methods to help us live today and utilize what naturally was provided or given to us versus looking for something more. And I really feel like a lot of us are looking for that. We know what we want, but I think we need to definitely take the time to live in the moment and stop chasing that carrot.
Even this is interesting. If you look at our society, right? I grew up in a family where my dad worked like crazy. I mean, he unbelievable numbers of hours, and we took great pride in that. And our society, when I was growing up, I guess it's a little different now, but that's what I hear anyway. But we took great pride in hard work. But even that's a control mechanism. They can take basically anything and push it into the society and create a control over a group of people. When I was growing up, the hard work thing was a big deal. So I worked hard. I still work hard. And it's ingrained into me, right? That's a positive thing, but it is also a negative thing.
You know, I find that I find it very relatable to say that, you know, it's engraved in me to work hard back when I was younger and to this moment. And I've always found it interesting. I don't know if it throws this conversation off, but I've always found it interesting where I never had time to take 2-week vacations. I never had time to, you know, be in so many different places that I know financially you need to have a good chunk of cash to be there. And somehow couldn't understand some people, and it's not envy, it's not jealous, because I knew how to work for what I wanted. I've always found it interesting, so many people that were able to take those 2-week vacations or be at those places, but I never knew they worked. Like they did not work, but yet they were able to take 2-week vacations and be at those places. And I'm like, how are they doing it? When I work my butt off 16-hour days, then get home, prepare dinner, then take care of my kids for their events and soccer practices and this. And I'm like, how do they do it? They don't work, but yet they're accomplishing all that. And I'm working and I can't accomplish any of that. So I don't know. It just, I found it very interesting growing up to be able to observe the differences between a person who really put in, 24/7, you can call it, and someone who did it, who was a stay-home or didn't work at all, to be able to do all those things. And to this moment, I still see it. Not jealous, just simply observing and giving my opinion on it. But going back to our read, and of course you guys can comment on what I just said, it's just, I also find it that I've noticed, how promises seem to keep rotating, right? When it comes to the cycles of keeping us moving, whether it's, the economy, the way the economy is working today, or maybe the next decade it's about religion, or maybe, the modern decade is about, who we're voting in. And it's just seems like the change will never come, no matter what decade we're on or what their cycle of promises are on, during that time period. So I mixed a little bit of a lot there, but hopefully you guys can comment on that.
No, first of all, I do relate to the hard work. The hard work that it was always called your work ethic. Okay, the ethos of that. So, and I think there's value in it. There's, but what are we working for? And what are we working at? I'm not one for enjoying idle hands. Resting is not being idle. Resting is part of balance. So there's a difference, I think, between balance and working, just for the sake of working. But I was brought up with the same, work philosophy, that you do want to be able to take care of yourself, being able to take care of a family if you have a family, etc. So I wanted to say, it's, as you were saying, Ken, part of that is, it's like there's a good and a bad, but it's like, what are you working at? What are you working for? And then balance. And I look for that.
And one phrase is, wherever you go, there you are. Whatever you're experiencing, you're bringing a lot of that to the situation. So I grew up in a situation with a lot of hard work and a very positive feeling about that hard work, right? We were proud of working hard. But kind of like you were saying, Rena Estella, there was a guy that lived right across the street from us, had 5 kids. He worked in a corporate job, right? My dad owned his own business. He worked in a corporate job, and every weekend, the whole family went down to the lake. That's a big thing around here because the Ozarks are close, right? Every weekend, they would go down to the lake, and he played golf, right? And we're over here working our butts off. I'll just go ahead and say it, right? Almost 24/7, literally. And we didn't have time to do any of that kind of stuff. And so when I got out of high school, I decided I was going to get a 9-to-5 office job, right? So I became an accountant, and I worked 24 hours a day as an accountant because I brought me to the job, right? And it actually frustrated me when I got into management, because most of the people there didn't have that same work ethic. And they're probably still in those jobs and enjoying their time at the lake, right? And I'm in my own business and working lots and lots and lots of hours because I'm still here. And it's something inside of me that I brought along, which is good and also bad, I think. And I have to recognize that, I missed some balance because of the work. Although I love the work, I wouldn't know how to function without working a lot. So
don't get me wrong, though. Don't get me wrong in regards to being proud of the amount of time put into what you love to do. Because I loved what I've done from day one, no matter what the struggles were. So
I even, people will talk to me about retiring, and I just scratch my head. I don't get the concept. How do you just retire? What are you going to do with yourself?
With that said, though, on that point, on that note, it was funny because yesterday I went we went to visit someone, and when we entered, he was on the couch sitting down, and we asked, "Oh, how are you?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm here resting." And I'm like, "Are you resting from resting?" Because I know what they do. They're retired, okay? And they're young. They're in their 60s, 62s, you know? And yeah, but I thought it was funny. And it was a family member of my husband. And then we got home. He's like, don't be saying that because he might get upset. I'm like, well, I was just asking him something, right? It's like, oh, are you resting from resting, right?
I love that. I'm going to use that. But
in Spanish, it sounds a little bit better.
Yeah.
In English, I'm trying to put it together, but yeah.
I think it's still good.
And I'll say it in Spanish. It says, ¿estás descansando después de descansar? You know.
That's what it sounds the same. It sounds equally good.
It sounds the same.
But you know what? I don't, work can be a lot of things. It can be study. It can be something that, if you are a hard worker, it's like I always hear, do what you love what you do. And there are some things just out of responsibility. We have to do things that we may not enjoy so much. But hard work doesn't mean that there is a paycheck at the end. It just means that if you find it rewarding and want to go at that full force, rest when you need to, achieve balance, there's nothing hard with hard work, and it doesn't necessarily mean a paycheck. We need to keep roofs over our head and be responsible so that, like, I don't want to be a burden to someone else, nor on society. That's my self-imposed responsibility. It's how I was raised. But most of the work that I do is what some people would call work, whether it's investigating or learning or whatever. That's rewarding to me. And that's where I'd say it's a combination of what people would say hard work. Why don't you ever rest?
Yeah, if there's purpose underneath it, it's valuable beyond. Yeah. But when you're driven to beyond what's enjoyable, because I enjoy work, right? But sometimes I get a little beyond what I should. I was worse at that when I was in the corporate world, though, because I took that work ethic into an environment where it didn't fit.
You're saying you take on things that you shouldn't have because you're already full schedule. Yes?
Yeah, and everybody else wasn't doing their schedule, so I did mine and theirs both is what it came down to. And it was just irritating to see other people that, I had to respect it to some degree. They had the ability to go home at the end of the day. I didn't have that capability. If there was still work to be done, I just stayed there and did it. And that's, there's a certain value in that, but that's a little weird too.
What I found in the corporate world, they'll take as much as you want to give, and that leads to burnout. And and it's actually, I think the corporate world looks for those people who are willing to give everything without personal balance.
And what happens, Eliza? And what happens when you're not a team player? If it's after your shift and here comes that stick, right?
Exactly.
They shame you. You're not a team player. Right?
Or the attaboys aren't coming in the way they were because you're going home at a normal time. That type of thing. Yeah.
What do you mean you clocked out at 5 p.m.? Well, that's the end of my shift. What do you mean you didn't answer my 5 calls at 7 p.m.? Yeah. So that's part of what we're discussing as well. I will say I don't regret anything because I could look back and see how we improved our situation. But I will say that if I was able to change a couple things, it would be wanting to know about this information a lot sooner and cutting that 16-hour day to 8 and using those other 8 hours on this material. And also, the time with my young adults, that I still made time for them. And I don't even know how I did it. And the time that I spent was well spent, quality time, but also being able to be more of a stay-home mom. I wouldn't have minded being a stay-home mom now that I look back on how much I'm enjoying my granddaughter. And I wish I would have had that amount of time to give to my 4 young adults. So those are the two things that I would say is wanting my hands on this knowledge a lot sooner, a lot younger, to be able to make a bigger impact on my kids and future generations of theirs as well.
Taking that thought, they changed the structure of society, basically, right? Through the whole feminist movement and approaches to make you feel like you need to be at work rather than with your family.
You know what's crazy on that topic of feminists? I watched an hour episode of, but a talk of a conservative with 20 feminists. Wow, that was interesting on how much they pushed the subject of not wanting to have kids and raise a family, but yet be out in the workforce to get themselves to an equal position of men. I don't know. The conversation was super interesting. You mentioned feminists, but it's crazy how they and actually it came out that it was purposely, intentionally placed to start pushing. Actually, the way they mentioned it was purposely, intentionally done to double tax a home.
Double a tax base, exactly.
Push the mom or the female, the woman, out of the household. It was a very interesting topic, and I do find that, yeah, when you look around, you can see it now that it's mentioned. Like, you can see that is what's taking place, because it doesn't seem like young people, 25, 30-year-olds, they're not interested in the foundation of that, family.
Well, they were able
kids.
to use that also to hide the fact that they were inflating away all of your purchasing power of your dollar. You needed, when I was a kid, one job supported a family and a house and a car and the picket fence and the whole bit, right? But as we got into the 70s and then the 80s, that your dollar didn't go very far. And now it's way beyond that, to where pretty much everybody feels like just to survive and to have a decent life, everybody has to work. And some of them 3 jobs each. But that was not always the case. And I think that was a large part of that getting women in the workforce was because they knew that the value of the dollar was being wasted away through inflation purposefully. And the whole thing's based around keeping you under control without quite irritating, I'll use the nicer word, irritating you enough to revolt.
They do it gradually and slowly and quietly.
Mm-hmm. Because as we've said before, we have the power to turn it over if a lot of people at the same time would make that decision, right? So they have to keep us battling with each other and hoping that it's going to get better and all these things that we're talking about with the carrot and the stick, in order that people don't turn on them and realize they got way more power. We got way more power than they do.
And then there's the piece coming in now, and a big evolution is happening right now versus working hard. It's look with AI and robotic systems, etc. There's a good chance there will be no jobs, and then in comes universal basic income. You're paid for being idle. There's already a very large welfare state. That there is no, and some of that is needed to help people. But when we're going towards what's happening right now is something that is not healthy. And
when you mentioned
encouraging people.
Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
That's right. But it's encouraging people to, like, mentally preparing people to not work, to not do, but in exchange for that, it's exchanging all of your God-given rights, give those away in exchange for the benefit or privilege. And we'll get into, as we go through this book, of talking about the benefits and privileges versus our rights. But benefits and privileges will always come with an exchange. It'll be a loss. But, people who applaud, like, oh, I can just sit around, do what I want, play video games. I can do that. And everything will be for free. And what does free mean? So things are being flipped on their heads right now. I think we need to be aware.
Yeah. And to your point of what you mentioned in regards to the AI, I think I mentioned it on a previous episode of an advertisement in San Francisco, huge poster on a wall, where it did say, let me recall, something to the effect of, don't hire people, the AI revolution is here, and then it gives their number. So it's now, with the dollar losing its value, right? They've positioned both mom and dad working. It just seems like now that fear of not being able to have a job in the future, it's just that constant balancing act that we have to, in a way, keep in mind. And then with advertisements like that, like, it puts us even in a more fearful position of what is going to be happening in the near future, because AI, though it's been around, is now like completely impacting us today. And just a simple impact is just if you run into that across that ad, it really puts you in a almost in a paralyzed position of thinking what is going to be happening. Fear, right? Fear of what's going to be happening, and we need to stand up and be ready for that.
And for those that don't know, artificial intelligence is AI, and it's taking over a lot of jobs. It's taking over a lot. It's not just talking about robots. It's talking about underlying information systems and things that are supported by that. So go ahead, Ken, you were saying.
Well, no, I mean, the AI thing is pretty amazing. And I don't think hardly any of us actually recognize how ingrained it already is in society. Everybody used to complain about customer service people on the phone, being from another country. I think probably most all of them that you talk to now are AIs. They're not even humans on the other end of the thing, and they can do an amazing job as a customer service person.
From another universe.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll look out for that sign, Reina Estela, that type of sign, because it's just, what an indicator of where things are going fast.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of the items you mentioned that this book is going to help us understand, I really would love to consider opening the door now to equity, like start talking about equity with our, on these conversations. I think it'll also help us understand how we can stand up and help ourselves out.
So when you say equity, what does that mean?
So equity, you always want to put me on the spotlight there when I mention something.
You brought it up.
I did. Equity, just simply like really equity, us, the value, us as equity, justice, fairness. I don't think a lot of us see, as we're getting into this topic, we start understanding what equity is. A lot of people probably are not familiar with the equity we would be talking about here on the episodes, but it's really all around us. It's us. It's the air we breathe. It's what nature naturally has provided for us, or our Creator has provided for us. And we need to learn how to utilize it to our benefit, knowing that we're in a position or in a game that isn't really fair to us, that they're playing us. And the minute that we start understanding what equity is, I think we can change our way of thinking. It can change our way of standing up for ourselves. We start understanding more of what we can do for the benefit of ourselves and our present moment and in our future moments as well, without allowing them playing us, but us understanding how to play along for our benefit. That's my way of understanding it. You guys pitch in your way and see if there's definitely a different angle that can help clarify. But it's definitely just, I want to be able to not be taken advantage of. The energy that I produce or have, I want it to be utilized for me and the immediate people that are around me. And I want to learn this game 100% for the benefit of us, ourselves.
I hear what you're saying, Reina Estela, and what you mean. And I think a big step towards that is really grasping how the system literally has us, our energy connected and contracted to them so that we must respond or feel we must respond because of the penalties to the sticks. Let's forget the carrots, but how we are needing to respond. And in previous episodes, we talked about the enslavement. Is how are we contracted? How do we break those chains to actually enter into what you've just described?
Mm-hmm. And a big key to that, in my view, is to recognize it's not through fighting and battling. It's through recognizing that we're participating with it. They're not forcing anybody to do anything. Even though there's carrots and sticks, you still have the ability to choose if you even recognize there's a choice. I think most people are so locked into the rules that they don't even recognize that they have a choice. And equity in relationship to the law is very different than what people think about the legal system of rules that they have to follow because the rule is there. Equity within a lawful situation is justice. The rules frequently don't provide justice. They provide guidelines that everybody's supposed to follow. But what's right doesn't really matter. It's what's written that matters in that system. And most people think they're stuck with that. They don't realize there are ways to get real justice as opposed to just following the rules. So we'll get into that more as we progress through this little process too. Raina Stella likes to jump ahead, doesn't she?
Hey, looking forward to it.
Always
I know they're going to enjoy it.
That's true. You're right.
It's going to empower us.
Absolutely.
Further.
Absolutely. There's no question. And it's kind of nice after a depressing read tonight. It's nice to know that there is empowerment at the other end, but recognizing what's happening and that you've been sucked in to something that you don't have to participate with, but you are participating with it. You're not being forced. Nobody's holding a gun to your head. There may be some sticks that you aren't thrilled about, but that's not the same as being forced to. Getting uncomfortable is not all a bad thing, you know.
And I don't think it was a depressing episode at all. I think it's definitely a very, very good conversation to help with this whole topic. I didn't find it depressing at all. I'm telling you, episode 7, like the number 7 is a very, very good number.
I'm going to read through the second half of this one here. The fear of suffering, punishment, or eternal damnation ensures that folks don't stray too far from the path laid out for them unless they become aware and recognize that they're not stuck with that path that's laid out for them.
Yeah, and I think all our episodes in a way have touched on that a little.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all about awareness, recognizing and getting rid of assumptions and developing from the inside out the freedom of expression that there may be prices to pay to get the freedom that you want. But the question is it worth those prices? And to some people, freedom is worth a whole lot. To other people, it's really not worth so much. And the only people that are going to be making any sense out of what we're saying are the ones that freedom is pretty valuable to.
And I like that because the freedom, yes, it will take work. There is a price to pay. But on the flip side, it will turn a lot of these sticks into feathers. And that's what we're looking to do. That the sticks don't have power as we become free to make choices in as Raina Stella said, in an equitable way.
All right. Any last words from anyone?
I'm not gonna bring it up.
Someone asked a question. Now explain that, Raina
Stella. That'll not happen again.
This is always so enjoyable. Thank you.
Yeah, it is.
It's been a great time, guys. Thank you so much.
The views expressed in this Liberty Ark podcast are for informational and educational purposes only. They do not constitute legal or tax advice, and they may not reflect the official positions of anyone at all, really. We want to express our appreciation to the authors of the unpublished manuscript titled The Great International Heist, on which the Liberty Ark Podcast is based. Rebecca and Jonathan Rodrigues, the authors, provide courses that go into much greater depth and are available at libertyarkpodcast.com/White Rabbit.